Hey, there you are. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
We'll get everybody from the waiting room in. And
Hi, Pam.
hey, Swinburns, how are you? Hi, Patty.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks for being here. You know, it was kind of funny. I was coming down the street here a few minutes ago, and I've spent a lot of time over the course of my life, going back to when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, outside at night with a flashlight. And when I was a kid, especially before we were going on vacation, we went up to the UP of Michigan a lot, and you could buy night crawlers up there, but it was just as much fun, and we saved a bunch of money by picking our own. So I'd go out with my dad on a warm, wet night like this, although, I'm using wet in quotations because, gosh, we need rain. But, if the ground was nicely moist and we got a gentle rain like this, it was great for picking night crawlers. Anyway, I'm coming down Walnut Street. There's a woman with a flashlight looking, in the grass. And my first thought was, oh, she's looking for night crawlers. But then I saw how she was and I saw, where she was, not really great night crawler habitat there in the parkway. So I suspect she's not a nature nerd and she's not looking for night crawlers, but maybe she'll learn. It's a great way to pass an evening. Well, I could chit chat about weird things I've done in the pursuit of nature, but that could actually be a topic for another time. We still got a few people joining us, but I'm going to go ahead and get the program started. Let's see, where are we going to go with? We'll go with this one. All right. Still haven't developed the proper narrative to explain all these pictures that are welcoming us to the program, but something to get to another time. If you happen to read last week's column, you saw that it was a spider column, and I think I put some warning in there that we're going to be doing quite a few spiders this because it's spider season, and then with dry weather that we've been having, we're seeing a lot more storms. We get wind, we get branches coming down. Webs can get wrecked when there's a lot of disturbance like that, but it's been so still and dry for so long, our spiders are just having a blast. And I picked grass spiders just because they're one of the local spiders that's very common right now, and their webs are very obvious. I'm not sure which picture ran in the print edition. I think both of them were online, but you know these guys, whether you think you know them or not. The picture on the right was actually taken several years ago in my garage. This was a nice lady spider who spun her funnel web near my garage door. And neat thing about these spiders, they will retreat into this funnel, this sheet web that they create. They always put a little kind of a tunnel or a den for themselves at one end that they can take shelter in, and they can feed in there, and they can be relatively safe. And again, we are talking about the females. The males are not so inclined to be big web spinners, but the eye arrangement here, you can just kind of barely see the way the 8 eyes are arrayed across the front of the head. You're really getting a spider identification. Eye arrangements are huge. We'll probably do a little segment on that in a future program, because it's pretty fascinating. Depending on how the spider makes its way in the world, its eyes are going to be shaped differently. I always say our jumping spiders are the teddy bears of the spider world because they've got these two big eyes right up front. They got a bunch of other ones too, but those are less obvious. And it's the big kind of winsome looking hunting eyes that they have that, well, they've won my heart over anyway. I don't know about everybody else. But the picture on the left, this was taken by Marita Katzbeck. She's in our current class of King County Certified Naturalists. And she just got a kick out of the way the spider, can you see this, the shadow over here on the left-hand side? She said this, it was like, the spider was going, "Arr, arr, look at me, I'm a giant spider, arr." And they are actually rather large. They can, including the legs, and the legs aren't usually included when you read about the size of a spider in a field guide. They're usually talking about just the body length because legs can, stuff can happen. They can break, they can fall off. And if every spider size was including the legs, it could be kind of misleading. But figure about 2 inches if you include the legs on these guys. And they're called grass spiders because a lot of times these webs are spun low and they spread out across the grass. They don't feed on grass. Every spider we have is a carnivore of sorts. I took this picture a few weeks ago over on the Baker building right next door here in downtown St. Charles. These are all grass spider webs. I didn't go too close in to find all the spiders that were living there, but this kind of gives you an idea. This is one set of views and one little planting in one town in Illinois. You can just imagine how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of these webs are spread around right now. If we were to look a little closer at who was living inside. Now, if you happen to see the article or if you read it in the future, you'll notice that I described them a little bit, and I said that they look somewhat like wolf spiders. So, and first of all, we better take a look at what we're talking about here. On the left, we have the large round abdomen of a female, and Agelenidae is the family that these spiders belong to. Agelenopsis is the most common species we have around here. Grass spider is just way easier to say and for people to comprehend. But females are typically larger and heftier in size than the males. The males are more nomadic. Like I mentioned, they don't, not big, much big into web spinning, although they can. And this other distinguishing feature, this is going to be true of pretty much every spider I can think of. The males, so when spiders reproduce, it's not in the way that you might think it would go. The female's reproductive parts are right underneath here. Here's where her abdomen reaches her cephalothorax. Spiders only have 2 body parts, which is different from insects that have 3 body parts, but their head and their thorax are kind of together in one portion, and then the abdomen is by itself. Well, right where those things come together, that's where the female's reproductive entryway is. And the males, I think the kids are calling it junk these days. The male's boy parts are up here on his pedipalps. Can you see these structures? They look like boxing gloves. And it's up to him to keep her fangs occupied in such a way that he's not going to get injured while he gets those boxing gloves down there in her business. And this way to tell the males from the females is, like I said, it's pretty much universal in spiders. It's kind of a neat trick if you happen to see a spider. You can pretty much at a glance tell whether you're looking at a boy or at a girl. You throw in a decorative or a large ornate web and you don't even have to see the parts to know that you're looking at a female, because that's another universal, near universal thing, that male spiders don't really spin webs. Their main objective is to find a girlfriend. So in the column, I mentioned that they look superficially like wolf spiders. And here's a wolfie here. Now, wolfies are in a completely different family, the Lycosidae. And they're also fundamentally different in that they don't tend to spin webs. Now they can, they're spiders, and of course the female's gonna need a way to protect her eggs, so she'll make egg sacs out of silk, and they will sometimes have a drag line behind them so they know where they are, and maybe they can retreat back to their lair if they have to. But other than that, they're quite different. They're ambush predators, whereas the grass spiders are kind of more of a lie in wait, and when insects fall onto their web, then they run out and grab them. The grass spider web, it is sticky. If you try to clean it up, it's going to stick on the stick that you're winding it with, but it's not sticky in a sense that it's spiders or insects don't immediately stick to it when they fall. It's more of an entrapment type of a web that they spin. But I said they look like wolf spiders, and they kind of do. This is and not all wolf spiders have these stripes on the thorax, but some of the species do. And you can see this line here kind of corresponds to this line here or this line here. It's easy to think that you're looking at a wolf spider unless you look a little bit closer down here at the bottom end of the spider. See these two structures here? Because the grass spider is a web spinning spider, they've got these structures here with their spinnerets that help them tap down and lay out their silk. Because spinning a web doesn't factor largely into a wolf spider's life, it lacks those structures on the end. So another quick at a glance way to tell the difference between a grass spider and a wolf spider. Very, very different spiders that just happen to share some common characteristics. Now, given that, I couldn't believe my luck. Last week, we got an inquiry from a local resident that said, hello, I have a rather large wild wolf spider living in my window, including legs probably 2 inches. She's very pretty and thriving, but she cannot stay. I don't want to kill her, and I was wondering if you would want her for kids to view. I could probably bring her to you. If not, do you know someone that could take her, or can I put her in a park somewhere? So I love emails like this. And I responded gently that at Hickory Knolls, we do have a lot of animals on display, but we do not make a practice of taking things wild. Pretty much every, in fact, every animal that we have on display there came to us because of some unfortunate circumstance. We didn't just go out and catch a garter snake because we wanted a garter snake on display. That one was, the Gertrude, our garter snake, was bred purposely for use in a nature center. The only exception I can think of something that came from the wild was a salamander that was rescued from a storm sewer. So it wasn't going to survive down there, and we thought it might be useful for telling people what happens to salamanders in the wild sometimes. But anyway, long story, trying to reel it back in. We don't take things from the wild to put them on display. So I kind of said that, and I said, hey, can you send us a photo? I'd like to see, what we're talking about. Well, here's what she sent. Now, using our new knowledge of wolf spider versus grass spider, what do we immediately see here? We see a web. And we do see a good-sized spider in it. Here's the legs. In fact, it is thriving, as she said. This is the shed skin of that same spider from, who knows, maybe a few weeks ago. Here it looks like breakfast or lunch is kind of snagged down here. And the spider is hanging out, as she described, in the corner of her window. She sent along some additional text. She's currently outside, but is attached to my window. However, I'm not going to be able to open it, and she's near my spigot. I would just like to move her away from my residence as I have small kids and I don't want any bites. Is this too worrisome? We're near the river in Pearson Creek Park. Would that be okay for her? So this woman really wants to move the spider away. And this is where, I don't know, the whole idea, and now we're talking a spider here. I know, we're not talking of what animals get relocated, a troublesome black bear or a raccoon. But by and large, when you move something from where it's living, you're gonna mess it up. It doesn't matter if it's a bear or a raccoon, a snake even that has established scent trails is going to be lost if you move it somewhere else. So, the spider, and we do have a lot of grass spiders, but this particular spider is not going to thrive to the extent that it is there if she were to move it away. So I cracked my knuckles and I sat down and I wrote her back. And we're not going to go through this whole thing, but what I tried to do was reassure her that the risk of a bite is very, very low, that these spiders retreat, they don't come at you, and they're not looking to bite you because that would cost them venom. All spiders have venom. Most venoms are not medically significant to humans. And a lot of the things we call spider bites on people really aren't. And even those nasty, you've probably seen those nasty pictures online of the grotesque, swollen, necrotic tissued hand where, that was bitten by a brown recluse spider. Well, yes, their venom is potent, and yes, people can have bad reactions to them, but a lot of times doctors are finding that reaction isn't to the venom itself, it's to the staph infection that ensues afterwards, which still points to the fact that you don't want to get bit by that spider. But anyway, what I tried to tell her was that, if she just leave it alone, things will probably be fine. If she gets rid of it, there's going to be another one that's going to move in. I sent her some more information about spider bites, and I hit send, and I waited, and I waited. And to be honest, I'm still waiting. She never wrote back. I don't think she liked our advice. It was such a funny coincidence that she happened to write. We'll hear plenty of those. She didn't, I guess, either that or maybe she's become a spider fan and she's so busy staring at the spider on her windowsill that she hasn't had time to write back. But it's been over a week, and our email exchange was going off rather quickly, within an hour or so. So anyway, that's what we got for spiders this week. And in that column, I did say that it's going to be an occasional series. So we will be looking at other types of spiders in the future, as well as things like identifying the genders, and also those spider eye patterns, because that's a really fascinating topic too. So, Mary Thibault, you had shared with us, this was in the May issue of this year of National Geographic magazine, Where Have All the Insects Gone? So, I don't subscribe to National Geographic, and when you go online, you have to have either an online subscription or a print subscription in order to be able to view the articles. But I confess, I cheated just a little bit. Some of you might be familiar when you're browsing on the web, when you're looking at all the results to your inquiry, you can hit the main title, the hyperlink, and you'll sometimes see a little drop-down arrow, just a tiny little triangle pointing down. You hover over that. If it says cached, you can look at a cached version of the website that usually is fairly intact. And if you're just, scanning something for some information, and you don't make a practice of it, because you are, in a sense, cheating the system, it's not a bad way to get some information quickly. So I did it. I'm guilty. This is what it had. Where have all the insects gone? And as we talked a little bit about last week, there's a lot of talk these days of, some people are calling it the insect apocalypse. Some people are referring to it as insect Armageddon. We seem to be having a loss of insects. I even mentioned it last week too, looking up at the lights in the parking lot at the grocery store, not seeing any bugs. I was really hoping to see some katydids or some cool moths, and there was nothing. So this article does have some really interesting and very sobering statistics. 80% of all the animals we have on Earth are insects. And they're kind of what makes everything else click. If we didn't have them, the plants wouldn't get pollinated, and our food source, that base of our food chain would go away. And us and these plants, uh-oh. Okay, well, I don't know what that is. Get rid of it. There's a lot of, like I said, some very kind of sad numbers in this article, that some of it was focused on research in Europe. This was in Germany. This shows insects that were collected in 1994 and again in 2016. Same locations, same collection methods. Not only are there fewer, but it looks like maybe there's even fewer kinds, or maybe a different kind from what they collected before, and just all around fewer of them. They're claiming a 76% drop in the insect biomass. So that's a lot of bugs. We've been hearing this about birds too, that between insects, between what am I trying to say? Crashes into windows, and feral cats eating birds, and then the birds that eat insects not having the insects that they need to eat. Our bird numbers are dropping as well. Another study in the Netherlands says that their butterflies are down 85% over the last 100 years. And upper Midwest, a very precipitous drop. More than half of the mayflies that were studied have disappeared, and that's in just 8 years. So these are, like I said, they're very sobering statistics. And I do encourage you to read the article. There's some links to some of the research that's studied that they cite in the article. There's some PDFs that you can download. I was talking with my friend Valerie. Some of you know her. She used to be the manager of nature programs for the Forest Preserve District, and she and I share lots of interests, and one of them happens to be bugs. And as we were talking about this insect apocalypse, she brought up the point that the press and news media and even magazines like National Geographic, that when you can use a term like apocalypse, you're going to get readers. Just like, the murder hornets from earlier this year. All the news outlets were all over that term murder hornet because it really grabs the attention. So insect apocalypse, not to say that it's not happening, but painting it in that light garners more attention, and it tends to skew some of the research. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Valerie told me about this YouTube presentation by May Berenbaum. May's the head of the entomology department at University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Woohoo! ILL. She's been there for years. She's the mastermind behind their annual Insect Fear Film Festival. That's the last Saturday in February, or fourth Saturday in February every month, every year. But May was asked to present to the, I believe it was the Champaign County Extension Service or Champaign County Master Gardeners to address this topic of is there an insect apocalypse going on now? And this is just a screenshot from her talk. I'd be glad to email everyone this link to the YouTube, because they did record it and they did put it on afterwards. This was a webinar in, I believe, June, probably right around National Pollinator Week, if I remember correctly. But the gist of May's talk was that an apocalypse or insectageddon, these terms, they take a very fatalistic approach to the topic. And she pointed out some of the researchers that had done literature reviews by using the search term decline, they're skewing their results towards studies where populations decline. And if you were to change that and start doing a literature review of insects with population increases, you might find some different results. She did note that we most likely do have, our biodiversity is going down. That is the number of species that we have is being reduced, but not necessarily the entire biomass. Like if we were to weigh all the insects on the planet, we've still got a lot. But she also took a stance that, again, these terms are talking as though the end is near, but she, towards the end of her talk, lists several things, changes in human practices that can be made that can help reverse some of these trends. A big one she talked about was lawns and lawn care. And I have to say, I'm kind of with her on this. I don't understand the fascination with the perfect lawn, the weed-free, grass-like carpet, especially now with our lack of rain. I mean, when I walk my dogs at night, sometimes we actually end up getting wet in the middle of a drought because we've walked under somebody's sprinklers that are running at 10 o'clock at night, because that drive to keep the lawn green, it's a waste of a water resource. And then you're also, you're piling food onto it in the form of different fertilizers to keep it growing, and then you're throwing poison on it to kill the weeds that you don't want in it. And it has such far-reaching implications. And May Berenbaum says, if we maybe putting so much emphasis on green lawns, maybe our insects will fare better. And lots of other neat points that she makes. It's about an hour long, but I'll make a note to myself here to send this link out, because it does provide some hope. The National Geographic article is a fascinating read too. And I just found it by Googling National Geographic, where have all the insects gone? And it came right up. So check that out if you can, and then if you've got time, listen to May Berenbaum's talk. But I will send out that link so that you can have an easier time finding it. So anyway, again, Mary, thanks for raising this topic. I think it's one we'll revisit time and again, because it seems like our insects, definitely the population is changing. And I think humans are driving that change. So also said we were going to do a little look at chimney swifts. Now, what I'm going to focus on tonight is what they're up to at this time of year, but I thought, well, before we jump into that, I better review a little bit of just who they are. Chimney swifts are insectivores. They're known as flying cigars. because that's what they look like. And we're not talking about the long cigars. We're talking about the shorter stogies. Their body is, I don't know, 5 inches long or so, 5 or 6 inches long. And then they've got wings that have a very stiff wing beat to them. In fact, you might think because they're flying around and they're eating insects, these guys are strict insectivores. They don't substitute berries or anything. That's all they eat are bugs. And you see them above our downtowns all from late spring to early fall. They're cruising around eating insects, the river bugs, anything that's flying up above our towns. So you might think that they would be related to, say, swallows, who are flying around doing the same thing, but they're actually more closely related to hummingbirds. And you see that when you see them in motion, as we'll see in a couple of slides here, I've got some video, but they have a very stiff wing beat, and they are highly maneuverable as they're going around, chasing after those insects. And they're called chimney swifts because they today roost just about exclusively in chimneys. Back when our country was being settled, as the Europeans were coming over and they started building structures with chimneys, these birds that had always nested on cliffs and caves and maybe a hollow tree suddenly found a huge habitat boon in the vertical chimney structures. These birds, you see, they're not really built like other perching birds. Their legs are very weak. They've got these enormous claws. This picture here on the right, these were a couple chimney swift babies that, whoopsie daisy, fell out of their chimney swift nest inside a chimney in, of all places, Fox Mill. Whole other story about chimneys in Fox Mill, which is a rather new development. Where most of the time chimney swifts prefer to nest in old chimneys. What they need are unlined chimneys and uncapped chimneys. And those are getting harder to find. But there's a couple of chimneys, a few chimneys out in Fox Mill that meet those criteria. Anyway, look at the size of the nails on the feet of these birds. They literally hang using the nails in their strong feet to grip on the vertical surface of a chimney. When you're built like that, you really can't land on a branch to perch. So when they take off and fly vertically up out of a chimney for the day, they're out all day long, unless they're in feeding young, and they might take a quick rest while they're doing that. But other than that, they are cruising the skies like flying cigars all day long, feeding on insects. Now, insectivores, birds that eat bugs, can't stay here all year. The bugs are going to go away after we get a frost. These guys would starve if they stayed here. So they are actually now starting their migration southward. They go down into Central South America. It's quite a distance that they fly. And they tend to mass up and make use of chimneys to a greater extent. As the populations from the north are coming through, we're seeing increasing numbers of chimney swifts using our local chimneys. Now, Laura McKenzie, I know you're out there. This was a chimney you had called to my attention, I think it was last year when you were driving home from Wild Rose School. This is, I don't know the full name of it, but it's a saddle shop on the northeast corner of 2nd Street and Main Street in downtown St. Charles. It used to be the ski shop, and then they'd have patio furniture in the summertime. Well, you can't really see this from the Main Street side, but if you're on 31 heading south and you're stopped at the Main Street light, there's a big chimney behind that building. And down and see how these are chimneys going into, chimney swifts going down the chimney to roost for the night. And I think last year the numbers were in the 2 and maybe, it was impressive. This year, the highest count so far was over 1,000 in that chimney. That was just a few days ago. I think most recently there were 800 and some. So believe it or not, there are people that go out and count these things. In fact, you too can go out and count chimney swifts. If you do Facebook, there is a wonderful Facebook page, Chimney Swifts Over the Fox Valley. It's maintained by Rich and Marion Miller, who are part of King County Audubon. They're kind of our local chimney swift experts. They plan different events. In fact, there's a chimney swift sit coming up that I should have put that event date down. I'll see if I can look that up while we're talking. But there's a growing number of people in our community who are paying more attention to chimney swifts, counting the numbers of swifts that are going down. You know, and just like with any census or scientific sort of account, the importance of the data might not be apparent when you just go out and you count one time, but over time, that data is going to show trends, like numbers are going up or numbers are going down. So that's a really important aspect to this effort of going out and looking at chimney swifts. So this is, again, this is the chimney behind the sail shop. It's actually Carroll Tower would just be to the north of this chimney. Now, I found another chimney that turned out to be pretty productive, and it offers ideal viewing conditions. This, okay, let's get oriented here. This is looking west. This big building over here, that's the Baker Community Center. Over here is Methodist Church and Lazarus House. And this building in the forefront here, this is the old St. Charles Post Office. It's now Doc Morgan's, they make trophies there, but one night, some of you might know, my office moved down here to downtown St. Charles just about a year ago. And I would hear these chimney swifts as I was leaving the office. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if they were going into the Baker building? And then I thought, oh, wouldn't it be bad if they're going to the Baker building? Because I know our facilities manager wouldn't want that many birds for that many, you know, he gets nervous when the animals are in buildings. So I thought, I'm going to track down and find out where these birds are going. So I followed them, and it turns out they are going into Doc Morgan's, the old post office. So this is what you see during migration. These are all birds, and this swirl goes on for, oh gosh, I don't know, 20 minutes or more as they're getting ready to roost for the night. So they spin and they spin. Some people think they're bats, and can you hear that twittering? I'll be quiet for a minute. Then as you know, some sort of cue starts, and they all start going down into the chimney. Now, I'm not good at counting them. If you do want to participate in a chimney swift count, I'd recommend going with some experienced birders. And Bob and Kathy, if you're listening, you might have some more information on the chimney swift sits that are coming up. We can talk about that at the end. But even if you don't count them, if you just want to go and view the phenomenon, this is a great spot, because where I was standing when I took this video was in the new parking garage that's behind Doc Morgan's, or the old post office. You can enter into that off of 2nd Street, which is Route 31, and you can also enter into it off of Illinois Street. And actually, I think you can get it off of 1st Street too, although they've got some of 1st Street blocked off for the restaurant seating, so that might not be the best entrance. But anyway, it's that parking structure in downtown St. Charles. And what's nice is that you can view this. This is the view from the 4th, I think it's the 4th parking level. So if it's raining, you can stay dry, and you're almost at eye level with that top of that chimney. On a clear night, you can go all the way up to the top of the parking structure. And then you can kind of look down. You can't really see into the chimney, but it's a really neat vantage point for watching and trying to count the birds. Now, when I tried to count, I think I came up with, I don't know, 250 or so. And then I showed it to John Dewar from Kane County Audubon, and he watched the whole video and he counted more like 750. So I was way off. But again, it's a neat thing. It's happening now, and there's lots of places that you can get to go see it. Now, I mentioned our facilities manager earlier. This is this picture here. This is the Swanson Pool building at Potawatomi Park. And years ago, this also served as a warming house. So there's a fireplace in a room that's not really used by the public anymore. This chimney is uncapped and it's unlined. And I know we had swifts nesting there this summer. It'll be interesting to see if it becomes a roost for migrating swifts this fall. I was there about 2 weeks ago and it seemed like it was still just a family unit that was using it. I counted 7. It's another neat thing about chimney swifts. When a pair nests in a chimney, they kind of have exclusive rights to it. The other swifts kind of leave them alone. And I counted about 7. I'm a bad counter, but there weren't the masses going down the chimney like we saw in the other slide. But these were just a quick list of things that came off the top of my head. Baker Memorial Church down on Main Street in St. Charles. Burgess Norton, I know Bob and Kathy, you've been going there to count. That's the factory building in Geneva. Rich and Mary Miller, they like coffee, they like limestone down in Batavia, and they count down there. But really, in fact, I was eating dinner in downtown Geneva about a month ago outside. We were at Giamia, and I could hear the twittering. The sun was starting to set because of that massive swirl going down into the chimney. That's always at sunset, as you say, because they don't fly, they don't catch bugs at night. It's maybe a few do, but for the most part, they're resting because they've been flying all day. And I actually got up and left the table and went out and stood in along 3rd Street to watch where the chimney swifts I could hear were going. And I saw 2 dive down into what was the old Erdes building in Geneva. So just if you see them and it's around sunset, see if you can follow them and see where they're going down, and then maybe stake that site out and go back a few more times to see what's happening there. Okay, I did happen to pick up on my phone here. Swift Night Out for Kane County Audubon is actually this weekend, September 4th through Sunday the 6th. If you're interested, let me know. I'll send you some information. How does that sound? What Marion has written is that monitoring roosting activity is one way a community can help increase awareness about our declining chimney swift population. So we were just talking about declining insect populations. Here's in declining insect eaters populations. It's simple and it's fun to participate. Start now, keep your eyes to the skies around sunset and watch for swifts, follow them to the roost. Once you have a roost located, pick a night, September 4th, 5th, or 6th, to count the number of swifts that enter the chimney and let us know where and when. We like to coordinate the monitoring efforts to cover as many roosts as possible. You can count one roost all 3 nights, or you can count a different roost each night. I do recommend, if you can, taking a cell phone video of it, because like I said, I counted 250 and the experts counted 750. So anyway, if you're interested, contact me and I will get you some more info on that. Now, Kathy and Bill Swedberg, last week I totally flubbed your cool photo, but we had been talking about cedar waxwings, and you took this picture right on the downtown bridge. And these birds are just so darn handsome between the waxy coverings at the end of the wings and the little tip of the tail that's yellow. the dark mask. And then I thought this was interesting too. This sure looks like berry stains. So I think that this post has either been occupied by more than one cedar waxwing, or this cedar waxwing really liked it and he stayed there for a while, because he definitely left his mark. But I saw cedar waxwings eating insects again on last Friday, so the behavior continues. They too, they might stick around. They might migrate a short distance, but they will. When the insects go away, they have the advantage of being able to feed on not just bugs, but also on berries. So neat photo. I wanted to say thank you again for sharing it with us. So BCNH, Black Crowned Night Heron. Remember last week we had the email from the fellow who saw a bird that he described as being kind of a cross between a kingfisher and a cormorant. And it was kind of a head scratcher, because when you can picture a kingfisher and you can picture a cormorant, you can't really picture the two of them ever, getting together. Well, we decided that that's probably what he had probably seen was a BCNH, a black crowned night heron. They are a state threatened or state endangered species in Illinois, but we seem to have a fairly stable population here in Kane County. So his subject of his email was 4 of them. And I wanted to give you the specifics on this in case you want to go over and check it out. It's not breeding season anymore. I don't think they'll feel harassed. They're in a very public area, actually. But he sent me a couple of photos that he took while he was walking his dogs. But the first photo that we'll see here is kind of blurry, but the second one kind of cinches it. Here they are. Here's a black crown. This is a mature adult, and here's another mature adult. He saw 4 of them in total here at what he called K. Lovett's Pond. And I thought I knew where actually, I know where a lot of ponds are. I didn't realize that there were ponds that had names. I thought they were all just kind of retention ponds or drainage areas. But this one is actually, it's in the Fisher Farms subdivision in Geneva. K. Lovett Park is at the southwest part of that subdivision. Here's Peck Road, and here's Kesslinger Road. And I tell you, when I drive along the Kesslinger, when I'm heading west, I do look in these ponds because there is a lot of activity. I see a lot of egrets and herons. They seem to have a pretty robust bird population, which means they probably have a lot of other things living in them too. Now, I said in my correspondence with this gentleman, I said that I would probably park over at Chapel Street and walk over. He said there's a kind of a lot of fences over here, and that if I was going to do that, to come down here, there's a walking path, like a bike trail along Kesslinger here, to take that, because the fence is going to prevent you from getting close to any of these ponds. Now, the pond where he saw the birds was in the easternmost pond. So if you want to check it out, you might be better served by entering Fisher Farms and making your way to the southwest portion of the subdivision, and then parking along the street here. There's probably a sign for K. Lovett here, but it would be this easternmost pond. Be a nice chance to see what's statewide considered a somewhat rare bird. But anyway, just kind of a neat update that I wanted to share with you. And with that, we've got a little bit of time left. I wanted to go over a couple of things. One, what we're going to be doing next week. I can't seem to get away from cicadas. So we're gonna take a look at another aspect of their life, which happens to be their death, and what can happen when a predator like a cicada killer comes along. I also wanted to, I've gotten a few calls and a few emails of people that are worried about, well, plants in their yard, their trees, and not so much the birds, because I guess they figure birds go to bird baths, or birds can fly, get over to the river, but the squirrels and the chipmunks, the frogs and the toads, how are animals handling this dry spell that we've been having? So we'll take a look at some of the local things that are going on, things that are doing well, things that are having a little trouble. And then another thing, this happened last year too about this time. I got a lot of, and when I say a lot, I'm not talking about, you know, like thousands of calls or emails, but enough texts and emails and a couple of phone calls that put it on my radar. The water lilies that are growing in the Fox River. You can see them over by Boy Scout Island, which is along Route 31, a little north of Main Street in St. Charles. If you happen to be driving along that stretch and you haven't noticed them, check it out. We're gonna share the information that I've been able to glean, and hopefully in the next week I'll be able to get a little bit more, so we'll tell you that story. And then since we've been talking about black crowned night herons, I realized that you probably would like to have maybe a little bit more information about them. So I've got a little species profile on tap for next week. And then we've got, it'll be another 7 days before we're together again. So I know there's gonna be a lot more things come up. So with that, I'm gonna stop the share and I'm gonna open it up. I did wanna ask, we switched over to Ticket Leap. Are you guys, I don't know, is one registration just as good or bad as the other? I do appreciate you taking the time to sign up for it. But if there's any strong opinions either way, I'd love to hear them. And if not, great. We'll just keep doing it that way. Anyone? Crickets again?
Hey, Pam. So
Yeah, hey, Greg.
the sign up thing is fine.
Okay.
It's one thing is as good as another.
Okay.
I had a question about the Chimney Swifts. So if we can find them really easily now, like in their little swirl or swarm or whatever, when are they leaving? When do they leave for Mexico?
Pretty soon, yeah. So I think we're seeing some of the populations from the north coming down, and it's usually maybe the first week in October that they're completely gone. Last year, St. Charles hosted the national symposium of a group called America in Bloom, and we did these walking tours of the downtown area. And I found out America in Bloom promotes community improvement, and they're related to the American Horticultural Society. So they started off with a big emphasis on flowers, but they've spread out into urban forestry and environmental efforts. And I found out they had a whole bunch of nature nerds that had come to St. Charles. So we put a last minute walking tour group together to go look at Chimney Swifts. That was the first weekend in October last year. And they were still here then, but a week later they were gone. So it probably swings a little bit year to year, but that's about the latest that we would probably expect to see them around here. Good question.
Thanks, Pam.
Oh, sure. Anybody else?
I had one more question that's completely unrelated to anything. We've just been noticing a lot of hummingbirds lately.
Okay.
When we go around, hummingbirds in our backyard, hummingbirds around. Are there more of them, or is that a fluke of just our perception?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, they're probably doing the same thing, getting ready to take off. And I don't know if our dry weather might be affecting too. They are insect eaters as well as nectar sippers, and I would think with our drought, maybe the plants maybe aren't willing to put as much moisture into the nectary to attract a pollinator because they're just trying to survive. And Kathy, if you've got any thoughts on this too, as bird watchers, I'd love to hear other perspectives. But I know we used to have an employee that worked with us at Hickory Knolls, and starting at Labor Day, he didn't feed hummingbirds throughout the summer, but starting at Labor Day, he would hang a hummingbird feeder outside of the nature center because they're getting that quick energy and the moisture, the hydration that comes from sipping on nectar. And the thing would be drained every day. So the thing about, do we have more, do we have less? It's so hard to tell. Just like with the grass spiders, it looks like they're having a big year, but big year in comparison to what? It's that data collection thing factors into any time you're trying to decide if things are doing well or not. So I would say maybe some of it is a factor of the time of year, but it's great you're seeing them, and it must also speak to it. Are you seeing them in your yard, Greg?
Yeah, we do have a feeder, but we've had feeders for years, and it may be because we're just spending a lot more time home. We're seeing them more often, but we just kind of it seemed unusual for us to see so many of them, and kind of wanted to know if there was if our experience was unique or if there seemed to be more of them around. So it's good to know that one data point does not make a trend.
But that's good that you're seeing them. So yes, possibly they have also started their southern migration. We've got a comment, and so they do. And boy, talk about an amazing feat from this area. And we tend to only see the ruby throats in this area. They're known to be like these species that's east of the Mississippi, but we do occasionally get the rufous hummingbirds during migrations. But to get to where they need to go in Central America, they will take a straight shot across the Gulf of Mexico, about 500 miles on those tiny little wings. And you guys know me, I'm bad with numbers. I can't quote statistics, but the number of heartbeats and the number of wing beats, and to have all that going on while flying 500 miles without stopping is just absolutely mind-blowing. So I'm glad to hear you're seeing more, and we'll just make a note, if you can make a note of that, and then we'll see, next year at this time, does that trend continue? Are we all not spending so much time at home anymore next year at this time? We'll have to see. But good points, and I'm glad you're looking. That's the most important part. Anybody else?
Hey, Pam.
Oh, hey, Miss Laura, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, thanks.
I'm just going back to spiders and wanting to ask a question because I get it all the time when I'm trying to calm the fears of adults, teachers in particular, about the fear of spiders. And I always say you don't have to worry about the bites around here. And then they always bring up the brown recluse. And I do remember when I was little, like 9 or 10, there seemed to be some sort of little outbreak or something of bites. Maybe this is just back in my 9 or 10-year-old mind.
It's like quicksand.
Yeah, exactly.
I figure at some point you're going to die in quicksand.
Yeah, exactly. So, I never know quite how to answer them, except that I think it's pretty extremely rare. But I don't know if I'm correct or not.
Yeah, they are really rare in this area. Now, what can happen though? Humans are very mobile, and if someone moves from an area, because generally it's the southern states, but even getting down into southern Illinois, they can occur. If someone moves from, say, Kentucky or Tennessee up here, and they load their moving van with boxes they haven't opened in years, and they've got the ottoman that they've never dusted underneath. All of those dark, quiet places are places that a brown recluse could hang out. And they do end up getting moved around. I remember there was a school, I want to say it was in Springfield, Illinois, which isn't really a hotbed for brown recluse activity, but some boxes or crates or something that had been sitting a long time somewhere in brown recluse territory got moved into the school, and the school got, kind of, they had an explosion of brown recluse spiders. But they would be considered rare around here, but not impossible because of the way we move stuff around and the chance we could move them with us. I will add, you can buy them on the internet, and I did.
Oh gosh.
This was a few years ago. We buy insects for our bug program that we teach at the Nature Center. And there's Bugs Across America, I think it's called. They have this huge list of insects you can buy. And they had, it wouldn't be the species that we would have in the eastern part of it. It was like a western recluse or something. But anyway, so you know what? Give me one of those and give me a western widow too. And I set up a tank on my desk with a black widow and brown recluse, and I kept them for over a year. Brown recluse, my setup wasn't perfect, and I had some tape, and the poor recluse got stuck on the tape, and she lost some kind of safety. Still, they are extremely reclusive, and both of them I fed small crickets to, and I would take the lid off, and I'd put my hand in, and I would feed them, and instead of like attacking, fighting, and they would hide, and then they would hunt like spiders do.
Okay.
And just try to eat without being eaten, which is the spider way of doing things. So even working in that close of proximity to them for over a year, and I didn't get bit. And I wasn't messing with them. I didn't go out of my way to try and pick them up or anything, because they might bite out of fright in that case. But it's really kind of their venom, that we're supposed to say the term medically significant. Their venom is medically significant, but a lot of times the things that we even people call a bump on their skin a spider bite, and it's not even that. It's a mite of or it could be a lot of different things.
Okay, so I can calm their fears then.
Please do.
Okay,
Please do.
I will. Thanks, Pam.
Anybody else? All right, well, if not, I very much appreciate your time tonight. Tech support puppy, I don't know if you heard him earlier, but he was running around with his squeaky toy. He's fallen asleep. You guys probably are ready to go to sleep too, so I really, really appreciate your time tonight, and see you back again next week. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.